In the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, there's a cable. It's no thicker than a garden hose. If you cut it, the global economy doesn't just slow down, it vanishes. But the people who control that cable and the digital permissions required to send a single dollar through it aren't elected. They don't answer to voters. They answer to a set of internal spreadsheets that determine with cold mathematical finality which nations are allowed to succeed and which are destined to starve. Most people believe wealth is built by hard work, by resources, by innovation. That is a comforting lie. Wealth at a national level is actually determined by a permission slip, and there are exactly 3 desks in Manhattan where those slips are signed. Welcome to the world of the invisible gatekeepers. Let's talk about the free market. We're taught it's like a giant Olympic race. Everyone starts at the blocks, the gun goes off, and the fastest, most efficient country wins. But that's not how it works. In the real world, some countries start the race with lead weights tied to their ankles. Others get to ride a motorcycle. The weight is called the cost of capital. Imagine you are the leader of a developing nation. Let's call it Nation A. You have a massive deposit of lithium, a young workforce, and a plan to build a green energy grid. You need $10 billion to build the infrastructure. You go to the global markets to borrow that money. This is where you meet the gatekeepers, Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch. These are private, for-profit companies. They look at your country and they give you a grade. If they give you an A, you pay 2% interest. Your project is a success. Their country grows. You become rich. But if they look at your plan to tax your local billionaires to pay for that grid and decide that looks unstable, they give you a B- or a junk rating. Suddenly, your interest rate is 12%. Now do the math. On $10 billion, the A country pays $200 million a year. The junk country pays $1.2 billion. Nation A is now spending its entire education budget just to pay the interest on a loan for a project they haven't even finished. They didn't lose the race because they were slow. They lost because a private analyst in a glass tower decided their vibe was off. This is the refinancing trap. But it gets weirder and much darker. It's called original sin. When the United States borrows money, it borrows in US dollars. When Japan borrows, it borrows in yen. If things get tight, they can technically adjust their own currency to manage the debt. But the gatekeepers almost never allow developing nations to borrow in their own money. They force them to borrow in dollars. Think about the absurdity of that. You live in Brazil, you earn reals, you sell coffee in reals, but your national debt is in dollars. If the US Federal Reserve, a group of people in Washington who don't know your name, decides to raise interest rates to stop inflation in Ohio, the US dollar gets stronger. Suddenly, through no fault of your own, your national debt just got 20% more expensive. You didn't change your policy, your workers didn't stop working, but because the global gate is denominated in a currency you don't control, you are effectively a tenant in your own country, and the landlord just raised the rent because he had a bad day. So why don't these countries just leave? Why don't they build their own system? Because of the plumbing. This is the part the gatekeepers don't like to talk about. It's called SWIFT. It's a messaging system that banks use to send money to each other. It sounds boring. It is in fact the most powerful weapon on Earth. If a country tries to bypass the gatekeepers, say by trading oil for gold or using a different currency, the gatekeepers can simply unplug them from the plumbing. Suddenly, you can't buy medicine, you can't sell your oil, you can't pay your pilots. You aren't just poor, you are invisible. The message is clear. You can be part of the global economy, but only on our terms. You can grow, but only as much as our spreadsheets allow. Here is the irony. The gatekeepers claim they are protecting stability. They say their high standards prevent reckless countries from crashing the global system. But look at the track record. In 2008, these same gatekeepers gave AAA ratings, the highest possible score, to piles of absolute garbage mortgage debt in the US. They told the world it was as safe as gold. It wasn't. It was toxic. It nearly collapsed the entire planet. Did the gatekeepers lose their power? Did they get fired? No, they got a bailout. They are the only referees in history who can blow the call, cause a riot, and then charge the fans a safety fee to leave the stadium. We're told we live in an era of global development, that the gap between the rich and the poor is closing. But is it? Or have we just replaced old-fashioned colonialism with digital colonialism? In the 1800s, if a great power wanted your resources, they sent a gunboat. Today, they send a credit rating downgrade. The result is the same. The wealth flows one way, up, out of the ground in the south, through the digital pipes of the north, and into the vaults of the people who hold the keys. The high stakes aren't just about numbers. They're about the fact that a few basis points on a bond rating in Manhattan can literally determine if a child in a village 5,000 miles away has a desk in their classroom. We've built a world where the market is treated like a god, but gods are supposed to be impartial. The gatekeepers are anything but. So we're left with a final, uncomfortable question. If the system is designed to only let you into the club once you've already proven you don't need the money, then what is the system actually for? Is it meant to foster growth, or is it meant to ensure that the people currently sitting in the amber light of the club never have to share their wine? The gate isn't there to keep the wrong people out. It's there to make sure the right people stay in control of the keys. And right now, the locks are getting tighter. Would you like me to script a deep dive part 2 focused on the specific countries currently trying to build a back door to this system and whether they actually stand a chance?